Welcome to London. In a world teeming with products and messages, how do you filter out the noise? In this week's Talking Business, we examine how big names survive in this brave, brand new world. Welcome to the programme. I'm Tanya Beckett. The explosion of media from Snapchat to Breitbart has fragmented audiences across the globe. The days when half a country's population would watch or listen to a programme or an event live at the same time are gone. So, how do big brands reach disparate consumers on such a plethora of platforms? And how do they remain relevant and inspire loyalty in a fickle world? Here to discuss this are three industry experts. Johannes Smith is co-founder of the agency Hugo & Cat, which specialises in digital strategies for big-name brands. Rita Clifton, CBE, is chairman of the consultancy Brand Cap, and Dominique Delport is global managing director of marketing and communications giant Havas Media Group. Welcome to all of you. Dominic, what's happened, of course, in the last few years, very obviously in your world, is the rise of social media and its influence. How has that changed the way people perceive brands, and through what mechanism?
I think that for the first time in history, you've got that scale. 1 billion people connected to the same platform, mobile or social platform. Never happened before. And I think that for the first time, it reversed the mechanism. The audience is now the media. And everyone is able to push comments, positive or negative, about everything, including brands. And so brands are not managing the conversation anymore. They need to look at what people say, because when they say it loud, it can destroy your brand reputation in a few days. And it happens every week. So you've got that complete inversion of that communication mechanism, and I think that brands understand that if they don't go intimately into this platform, Snapchat is very different from Facebook. If you apply the same content, the same strategy, you fail. So you need really to go in depth into every platform, and I'm not talking about the Chinese platform or the other Korean or Japanese. So every country has developed its own way to integrate services, brands, commerce. It's a brand new world. So, Rita, I think if one were to sort of summarise what Dominic is saying there, first of all, your brand can be very easily destroyed in social media because what we call the democratisation of media, meaning that everybody's contributing to the media content. And the other thing is that each type of social media, each platform has its own way of operating, and it needs to be understood.
The thing about branding in the digital age, if people talk about, sexy YouTube videos, social media stunts and everything else, but actually the killer insight about that is that you've got to be a really great business in the first place. So absolutely, we need to get into conversations, brands need to get into conversations and so on, but of course you need to do something to get into those conversations properly and also to earn trust, because in a digital age everything is visible, so everything counts. And what that means is that it's no use big brands spending lots of money on marketing communication, however smart, however beautiful and digital and everything else. If they are not as good on the inside as they are on the outside, people are going to find out, and they're going to find out really, really quickly with a scale and a speed that will take your breath away.
Johannes, so it suggests a little bit the type of brand that you build and how you build it is very affected by social media.
Absolutely, and I think you can't script it anymore. You have to actually listen to the audience and understand what people actually want and what the emotional triggers are that people respond to, and then build the brand around those emotional triggers. And that's how you build a great brand these days, by really understanding your audience and really listening and building a community around your brand. But it has to be true, as Rita says. It has to actually resonate with people and be real.
So it's not really a case of going into a boardroom or sitting in an ivory tower and drawing out a plan and that's it. It has to be a very responsive process. Is that what we're saying, Dominic?
Yeah, and there is a big lack of trust now, and that's really a wake-up call. So if we look at some surveys, 74% of brands could disappear overnight. And so, which means that...
What do you mean they could disappear?
If
people wouldn't care?
Yeah, people don't care. they could skip. There is such an oversupply of brand, a commoditization of brands, that people have choice. And they're very mature consumers. They can go online, they can disrupt traditional retail. So that's really that new empowered consumer that really wants to understand what is a trade-off. So that's really a pivotal moment in brand marketing, you know. And advertising is good. I mean, it boosts the economic machine, it creates jobs. There's a lot of positivity around that. But on the other hand, you need transparency.
But the other thing that's very noticeable is that if you have bought, for example, a pair of shoes or whatever it is that you've bought, you notice that you're on your computer and these things keep popping up. Yeah, Johannes, or maybe Rita, does anybody know how an algorithm works?
I think that's probably a good question.
Dominic, that's it.
For Dominic,
It's a mathematic.
absolutely.
I mean, it's like cooking. You know, you've got ingredients, but you need a recipe, and you follow the recipe.
That's
Algorithm.
a very nice way of describing it.
Algorithm is a cooking recipe. You know, so we've got data scientists, mathematical experts who write algorithm like they could write poetry in a way. And you have to understand that these big platforms, Google, Facebook, Twitter, are run by algorithms. So
Yes.
Google is page ranked, all the websites are ranked. Facebook is edge ranked with everyone on the same platform, but every profile and newsfeed is different due to your choice, behaviors and taste. So these mathematical environments enable then automation. And what we have seen with the financial market a few years ago is coming to the media market. So instead of calling BBC or calling the Mail or the Times to buy some advertising space, now everything is made automatically.
But it's great when it gets it right, it's great. When it gets it wrong,
It does. I mean, a pair of shoes have been following me around for a very long time, I can assure you, and sometimes you feel a bit stalked.
Blame the algorithm.
But I think what's really interesting, and maybe an irony about the loss of trust, is that in this explosion of channels, conversations and everything else, it has never been more important to find brands, to be able to navigate to people you can trust. Because actually, human beings aren't going to be able to stay awake for long enough to read all the rubbish that people put on mobile sites, websites and everything else. You need to be able to go to brands that you trust. And if you trust those brands, you want to spend time with them and you'll buy more from them and so on. And every now and again, and particularly when we have, you know, such an extraordinary change in the digital world where there's a consumer downturn maybe, you read articles about, is this twilight of the brands, is this death of the brands, because product and price is now laid bare in the digital age. Well, the thing is, you've got to be able to find places you trust to keep yourself sane. And that's why brands are really, really important.
What's really interesting there is that, as you said, Dominique, advertising is very programmatic. It's optimized dynamically as you go. But I think increasingly what we're seeing is that the whole experience is becoming optimized end to end. So all the interactions that you have with the brand, not just the advertising, but all the little experiences that you have with the brand are being optimized on the fly by looking at the data, looking at what kind of customer you are, looking at what you've done before and trying to give you the best possible experience. And what's interesting is that people don't tend to trust adverts very much. They say that they don't trust adverts, but they do want a value exchange with the brand. They do want relevant promotions and relevant offers. So they are willing to give up a little bit of data in return for something. And I think brands increasingly have to think about what is it that they're giving in return. So if they're going to harvest data and be clever about it, they have to give something back, and people are open to that.
and what can they give back?
They can give relevant promotions. They can understand what you've been buying before and say, well, if you buy certain things, we might be able to give you a little bit of a discount. We might be able to optimize the experience for you, make it easier for you to buy.
Recommend a friend.
Yeah,
Recommend
imagine
a friend.
that you have kids with a food allergy. You will really seek advice and tips for brands that understand these kind of allergy and can indicate you what are the good products for your food allergy and the right product for you. And so you need absolutely to have that kind of knowledge and services from brands. So I think that brands need to provide more services, not just a product. And it's what we are studying at Avas. And I think that, I mean, TV still is a phenomenal medium. You know, we did something with Heathrow Airport. They never did a TV advert with the two bears. It has been incredibly successful because people want emotion. And big TV screen is also, despite all the digital success, a phenomenal way to convey emotion and connect people and brands.
And I think that's a really, really important point here, which is that, I mean, it is so exciting what one can do these days in terms of automation, in terms of programmatic marketing and so on. It's very, truly exciting. But in the end, sometimes some core principles still apply, don't they? To building a brand in whatever age, you've got to be clear about what you stand for. You've got to be coherent about how that shows up through everything you do, the whole experience. You've got to make sure you keep on innovating and keep on renewing your brand over time. You just happen to have lots of different channels to do that, and frankly, if you're not doing it properly, there are endless ways for getting found out.
And what it is as well is an opportunity for brands to innovate. All this data
Yes.
allows brands to innovate. They can try things so much faster than they could before. They can launch new products, launch new services,
And then
test,
back away
try,
from
learn, back away. If it doesn't work, try something else.
Thank you all for now. So later in the programme, we'll examine how brands are creating challenges, education campaigns and media content in the hope of converting us from fickle customers to loyal disciples. But first, our comedy consultant and one-man brand, Colin O'Regan, takes a look at Ireland's image. Here's this week's Talking Point.
In today's era of globalised business, countries, just like products and services, are brands themselves. So welcome to Brand Ireland. There was a time when images of Ireland were lazy stereotypes consisting mainly of drinking, fighting and fiddle-dee-dee. But that was then and this is now. Today, Ireland has a far more contemporary image in the global economy. What are the elements that go to make up our brand as a country? And I wonder, can I think of a snappy way of summing them up?
The Irish and Brand Ireland is a huge entity, and there's so many variables involved in it. Our focus is on making sure that the corporate world understands why Ireland's a great place to do business. It's a competition to win investment worldwide. Oftentimes, when our executives are walking into boardrooms to pitch for certain bits of business, they're meeting their competitors from other countries that they will meet next week in Paris, that they will meet next week in Singapore. So Ireland as a brand is being represented through the IDA in all of those boardrooms, and we're pitching hard for jobs in Ireland. About 70% of the foreign investment that comes into Ireland is US focused. A lot of that is tech. Ireland now is synonymous with companies like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, having their European headquarters here. They are very powerful reference cells for us across the world. When one company sees their competitor go into a jurisdiction, they begin to ask questions. Why aren't they there? They must know something we don't.
But how do you create a strong national brand in a global context? One industry that does that is the airline industry. Aer Lingus is Ireland's national airline, having been founded in 1936. Its mission then, to connect Ireland to the world. But what is that Ireland these days?
Everybody knows us for our warmth and our friendliness. However, when we go globally, that's extremely important and it's probably our unique selling point. But we need to do other things as well. Ireland is marketed as a global business destination. Obviously, a lot of big businesses are based here. So we have to make sure that for the business traveller, we have a very good offering on Aer Lingus. So we need to be very professional. Most passengers like for us to be on time. They like a punctual airline with the Aer Lingus unique warmth Irish hospitality.
So that's it, Ireland, the small country, but the global brand. Now, to try and sum it up with a snappy description. Maybe I could adapt an existing advertising slogan. Ireland, impossible is nothing. Is it a song lyric? Ireland, my kind of town, 24 hours from Ireland, clowns to the left of us, jokers to the right. I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Colin O'Regan there with his take on Brand Ireland. And remember, you can see more of his short films on our website, bbc.com/Talking Business. Our guests are Dominique, Rita and Johannes, and they're still with us, which I'm glad to report. What is a meaningful brand? Rita, perhaps you could start us off with that. What does it mean to be what we describe as a meaningful brand?
I think there are a number of different ways of describing it. I mean, what they are brands that are particularly relevant to people's lives. I know that sounds completely obvious, but actually, to be truly successful, you need to elevate it beyond relevance to actually people irrationally loving and promoting your brand too. There are all sorts of, I mean, Apple is a classic example. It must be the most overused case study in the world, but people queue around the corner to buy Apple products.
And that's
when
part of the
they're
experience.
launched. Absolutely, it's part of the experience. If you think, though, also about those brands that have become almost a life portal for you, you know, life editing brands. These are brands like, for example, Amazon. These are brands like, you know, John Lewis Partnership in the UK. More broadly, maybe brands like Facebook and Google. These are brands that wrap themselves around you and your lives. They understand a lot about you. You trust them to sort out some of your problems, yes, to go and find products for you, actually to be a gateway into conversations with friends and family and so on. And they simplify your life and navigate a lot of the stuff that would otherwise drive you mad.
Dominic, your company's done a study of all of this,
Yeah.
what a meaningful brand is. What's notable is the ones that come at the top have a lot to do with organising your life rather than how you look.
As Rita said, we study 350,000 consumers in 33 countries, asking them what is a meaningful brand for you. And as I said, it's a personal feeling, perception. I want that brand to make my life easier. I want a great value for money. I want innovation, but I want also an impact for my community, my family, my neighborhood, great employer, sustainability practices, transparency, ethics, all these components, and of course, a great product. And when we look at that, yes, Amazon tip, and also the WhatsApp or the PayPal. When you look at Apple is not perceived as meaningful because it's too expensive. So if you look in 33 countries, it's still for an elite, less than 5% market share. So
But
it's
for those people, it's a passion brand.
It's a passion brand, exactly.
Absolutely.
If you have the money for buying these products, of course, like in Western countries. And when we look at how these brands overperform the stock market, plus 206%, it's massive. If you are relevant for your audience, then they're going to love you. Close to the heart, close to the wallet. They're going to overspend with your brands till 9 times.
Close to the heart, close to the heart. You're going to have, and I always remember that one. It is interesting, as I said, that these are lifestyle brands, things that organise your life for you. But that might be just a function of the fact that information technology has developed so rapidly over recent years. Right?
I think it is to a large extent, and I think now that people interact with brands in so many different ways, brands have to be much more mindful about the entire experience that they create with brands. From the initial awareness where people interact and they search, how people find brands, whether it's through voice search now, right the way through to the interactions on the mobile app, on the website, in the stores, the actual product themselves, the user interface, all of it has to come together. And one little weakness in that chain ruins brand perception because people expect these brands to just be extremely good at all of these different things. And there's so much competition. It's so easy to change from one brand to another now. You can just download another app and move from one brand to another. So it's fickle.
You know, if you were to go onto a site for socks, for example, the thing that you will also very often notice is reviews,
Right.
customer reviews.
Absolutely.
And we are talking about something like 85% of customers, of course, are influenced in their purchases by the recommendations of friends. And people will tend to believe any other consumers rather than the corporation who's trying to sell.
Yeah.
So at any stage of the research, the recommendation, the buying, the review process, you can be hijacked. You might be in pole position in people's minds, but if they go
Absolutely.
online and they find out that someone hates you and everything else, and this is why the only cure, the only remedy in this brand new world is you've got to be really, really good at what you do, and what's more, your staff and your people have got to believe in what you're
Absolutely.
doing. They've got to build a consistent idea together that they're prepared to tell other people about.
Yeah.
And you need to make people love you so much, they're going to tell other people as well. And that is the cheapest way to do marketing.
Dominic, I want to come back to what you said at the beginning, was that there needs to be this lifestyle aspect to it. So in a way, it needs to represent something more to you than just the product itself, something about how do you transcend just being a brand? Is what I'm saying.
Through content. I think that more and more people expect from brands that they will produce more content about even the process, the components of the brand, of the product, how it works. So, for instance, 71% of consumers expect brands to produce content because the consumer
What do
journey.
you mean by content?
Short form, documentaries, long form, they want to know better what's behind the stage. This is one of the big areas for brands now, which is content marketing. Look at a platform like Netflix. people are spending hours, there is not a single ad. So if you add ad skipping, ad blocking, and platform where there is no advertising at all, brands need to figure out other way to interact with people.
Johannes, this has been a development over a number of years whereby companies often advertise describing an experience rather than the product itself.
Yeah, I think increasingly brands have to describe the actual product, the actual experience, and they have to be very true to that, because it's very transparent, and they can't create this image that isn't true. I think fundamentally, if we look at trust as well, and what trust actually is, trust is really tapping into emotions and understanding the emotions of customers, and understanding how to respond to those emotions. Whether it's creating entertainment and creating joy, it's a little bit like the Pixar film Inside Out, where you have all these different emotions, and it might be joy, it might be fear, but brands have to understand how to tap into those. People have moments
so
in their
Inside
lives.
Out is where you have little characters that
Exactly,
represent various emotions.
So understanding where people might have moments of fear, where they might be worried about identity theft, for instance, and brands can respond to that and reassure and build trust around that.
And actually, I think it's interesting. One of the reasons why I think Amazon was so successful, if you think about it, this is an incredibly successful retailer that hasn't got any shops. You don't talk to anybody
But
there.
it has content.
But it absolutely has content. And what's more, in the very early days of its existence, it understood that people would be anxious about logistics, about getting their deliveries on time, about secure payment and everything else. They totally understood that, and they were reliable for delivering it.
And they designed
that's
an
how,
experience for that.
Absolutely. And that's how they started building up trust, because they delivered.
But you have noticed also that where you do have high street shops, they have become a lifestyle experience. You go in and it's all going on. There's sort of plenty of sort of show and tell and goodness.
Absolutely, and I think
it's not just rails and shelves.
Exactly, the high street I think has become this this showroom where a lot of stores these days aren't there to make money within that store. They are there to build brand perception and to build an experience and to showcase what the brand is about, and also showcase these connections with the brand story. So you have great brands like Patagonia, the apparel brand. That did very well through the recession from 2008 because they had a really truthful story. The founder is extremely passionate about the product. He is extremely passionate about sports, and that the kind of authenticity shines through.
But also the flow from online to offline.
It has to be able to stay.
Has to work.
Burberry,
all
for
of those.
example, is a great brand.
Absolutely.
I mean, a really extraordinary brand that's just managed that combination of stores, online, using catwalk shows to tweet to the world.
Imagine
you can buy
Lego.
now.
Lego was a
Absolutely.
dying brand a few years ago,
Yes.
and
And
now
now-
it's even a movie that boosts sales
People
and
paid
bring
money.
entertainment.
People paid money to
And
go
it's-
and see
and
their
it's a store where
advertisements.
experience is everything and
Absolutely.
paramount.
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
seamlessness is really important. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
we must leave it. Well, thank you very much to all of you, Johannes Smith, Rita Clifton and Dominic Delpaul. That's it from Talking Business in London. Do join us again next week when Karishma Vaswani will be in Singapore discussing One Belt, One Road and China's rising economic imperialism. Goodbye.